Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us today for another Alchemco webinar series about bridge preservation. Today we have Jeff Pouliotte here, and he's going to talk a little bit about the comparison between the BridgeDeck technology and other technologies used by DOTs to protect their structures. Jeff.
Okay, before we get started, I'll just tell you who I am. I retired from the Florida Department of Transportation, where for the last 15 years I was the state structures maintenance engineer back 2 years ago. And since then, I've been working part-time for Alchemco, and I'm here to help, and I'm helping Mario with presentations and other issues as well. So this presentation is comparing BridgeDeck with other products. And this presentation is broken down into 5 parts. I want to give you a little bit of background. I want to talk about the types of deck protection products, the attributes of crack sealers, the attributes of deck treatments, comparing BridgeDeck with other deck treatment products, and comparing crack sealers and deck treatment options for complementary BridgeDeck protection systems. Those of you that may be a little bit more aware of what I'm doing, the word duplex was used in place of complementary. One of the things I'm doing on the side with Mario's help and trying to promote the use of deck treatment products is that I'm trying to get a synthesis and NCHRP, which is research project approved, and in going through the research statement, they objected to the word duplex because it's used in the steel coating industry, and they wanted to come up with something a little more unique. I came up with complementary, so now we're using the word complementary. So let's talk about the types of deck protection products. Crack sealers seal cracks in concrete decks to prevent water and contaminants from entering the deck slab. Deck treatments permeate concrete and form a barrier to prevent water and contaminants from permeating deck slabs. And there's basically 2 types of deck treatments. There's penetrating sealers and healer sealers. Penetrating sealers get applied on the surface, and they stay fairly close to the surface, and they're more or less of a barrier system. Healer sealers, which is what BridgeDeck is, actually penetrates the concrete, and it goes into the pores and it seals cracks, and it does a more thorough job. So it does a little bit what crack sealers do, and it does what penetrating sealers do, so it's kind of a combination system, and for that reason, I believe it's superior. Overlays, topically placed barriers that prevent water and contaminants from permeating deck slabs. And what is that? That is either something like an epoxy overlay, a chemical overlay, or it could be asphalt with waterproof membrane. And there's tons of those type of products out there that they can use. And they actually just stop water from attacking the deck slab to begin with. Complementary BridgeDeck protection systems use topically applied overlays on top of crack sealers or deck treatments. So let's talk about crack sealers first. What are the attributes of crack sealers? Low viscosity products that, when poured onto deck slabs, overflow into fill, solidify, and seal cracks from water contaminants such as methacrylates and Pavon Index. Basically, methacrylates is the gold standard here. It's an excellent product. We're going to talk about that, and it has its place for sure in this business. Does an excellent job filling cracks, often used during construction to seal shrinkage cracks to meet specification and final acceptance. The truth of the matter is a lot of deck slabs crack during construction, and when I was in the construction office, which I was for years, we used to use this product to fill cracks, we'd make the contract to do it so that they could meet acceptance. Crack sealers do not fill concrete air entrainment pores and create a barrier to water contaminants that can prevent corrosion. So they have their limitations, but for sealing large cracks, or moderate-sized cracks, I should say, it does a great job. Attributes of deck treatments. low viscosity product poured on decks, flow into cracks and pores, and solidified to create a barrier to water and contaminants, such as silane, which is really a penetrating sealer. Alchemco BridgeDeck is a healer sealer. And another one that's kind of popular is we kept getting popular is Pore Shield. And we're going to compare all of these. Deck treatments prevent contaminated water from entering the concrete matrix, encountering rebar and causing rebar to corrode. Without air, water, and contaminants, rebar cannot corrode. So if you can stop any one of those from entering the deck slab, you will not have corrosion. Comparing BridgeDeck with other deck treatment products. So compare BridgeDeck waterproofing, Protectorant Plus, and Protectorant to methacrylate, silane, and Pore Shield for advertised service life versus practical service life, performance filling pores and cracks, material costs per application, other factors affecting the total cost of per application, and summary of these product comparisons. So let's start with the first one, comparing BridgeDeck to methacrylate. And our advertised service life is 25 years, 20 years, and 15 years for BridgeDeck, BridgeDeck Protectorant, and BridgeDeck Protectorant Plus and BridgeDeck Protectorant, respectively. We know pretty much that we're going to have that because we have some history. And the other thing is we're willing to back it up with a warranty. Methacrylates claim to have a 40-year service life. And the basically and practically, if you're going to use methacrylates, we're talking about reapplications on a 12 to 15 years reapplication basis. The thing is that the service life could be 40 years, but it doesn't stop new cracks from opening up, and that's the problem with methacrylate, or getting wider and then having to require a new treatment. So, you know, if you're going to use this product, it has its usage, but I think it really does not compete that well with BridgeDeck for that. Although it really does. It's a great construction product. BridgeDeck waterproof. This is BridgeDeck performance and cost comparison with methacrylate. At any rate, the performance is BridgeDeck waterproofing agent fills pores and 5/64 inch cracks. I converted to English because that's what mostly BridgeDeck engineers tend to look at. Bridge engineers. BridgeDeck Protectorant fills pores and cracks up to 1/16 of an inch, and BridgeDeck Protectorant fills pores and cracks up to 1/32 of an inch. Methacrylate fills cracks up to 1/8 of an inch, so that's excellent. But the cost over there is $1.50, $1, and 75 cents per square foot for waterproofing agent, Protectorant Plus, and Protector respectively. And we're also VOC compliant. We can, depending upon what type of equipment we're using, we can actually spread 3,000 to 30,000 square foot per hour. And it's quick to reopen to traffic as a result, and it's VOC compliant. Methacrylate, you have to mix in small batches. It lasts 8 to 10 minutes, and for a pot life, at 50 degrees to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. It's also an ester class organic compound, so it's not VOC compliant. So this product has its place, but in terms of protecting the entire deck, we certainly have the advantage. Comparing BridgeDeck to methacrylate, it's unclear how long methacrylate lasts. Methacrylate is 2 times more expensive than BridgeDeck, and that would be for the waterproofing agent. Methacrylate has a short pot life and takes longer to place, which increases the cost of application. BridgeDeck is VOC compliant. Methacrylate is not. Methacrylate fills larger cracks than BridgeDeck, but does not fill future cracks, and that's an advantage that we have because BridgeDecks tend to crack, or all concrete tends to continue to crack over time. BridgeDeck fills concrete pores and cracks, creating a barrier which stops water and contaminants from permeating concrete, which in turn prevents deck slab reinforcement from corroding. Let's compare BridgeDeck service life comparison.
Sorry, Jeff. Just a quick note here that I'm not sure if you have heard that before or not, which is kind of interesting. Kurt Nelson, the scientist who put together the technology of of Techcrete and BridgeDeck and this technology we have in different products that Alchemco produce. But what's very interesting was he's a scientist, well, he was a scientist from North Dakota, and his understanding was if you have a cut on your skin, you don't have to do anything, and your skin will self-heal. So he was trying to figure out how we could make concrete last longer. And he realized that, well, if we are able, the main reason why we have issues in the concrete is exactly because there are cracks. So if you're able to have, a concrete that water would not penetrate through the cracks, that structure would absolutely last longer. And not only cracks, but also future cracks that happen after the application of any given product. So understanding how our body works when we are, when we have a cut in our skin, his decision was, all right, so let me try to do something similar to that. And it was exactly when he put together a package of enzymes. And these enzymes are exactly the, 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 the secret sauce of BridgeDeck, because these enzymes are what's going to make the reaction in the concrete to seal the crack, not only the existing cracks, but also the future cracks. And what's very amazing about this technology is that this technology keeps reacting with water. So every time when it rains, for example, water from rain is going to reactivate the material that's inside the concrete, and that's going to happen for the service life of the structure. So if there's a new crack, as we were talking about the BridgeDeck waterproofing agent, when you don't have water, the product is dormant, so nothing's happening. And when water hits, immediately the gel grows inside the concrete. And if there's a new crack, that gel is also going to seal the new crack, so water is no longer penetrating. So this idea of Mr. Kurt Nelson back in the 70s of adding enzymes to a product, to a liquid that would be able to seal cracks in the concrete and also future cracks in the concrete is really amazing. And that's on my understanding about the technology, this really what makes this technology apart from any other technologies available, the ability to keep reacting with water for the service life. I mean, for 20, 30, 50 years. So this very amazing. Sorry, I don't want to disturb the presentation, just a short, fun fact about the technology.
No, I think you made an excellent point, and I was aware of all that, and I'm glad you mentioned it. One of the things I'd like to say about the gel is that it is obviously, it stays within the concrete, it stays resident in it, but in situations where you have freeze thaw, and you do have some water continues to hydrate in concrete, the gel will actually move and it won't cause the concrete to crack. So this is
Correct.
an excellent product, and the fact that it can move around and do different things, and basically keep the whole deck basically protected. It's really a wonderful product.
Right.
So let's talk about BridgeDeck service life with silane. So I'm not going to go through the exact rationale for BridgeDeck waterproofing agent, Protectant Plus, and BridgeDeck Protectant, because I did that already. But we are very confident we can get 25, 30, 20, and 15 years respectively for these products, and we're willing to back it up by guarantee. Silane basically, as advertised, is they can get 7 to 10 years. Practical service life has sort of been our experience when we use it, was 5 years. And the agencies often choose a 5-year service life to avoid damage. So it's inexpensive, it can be put down, but you're not going to get the same service life. It also has some other issues that we'll talk about in a minute. Okay, so when you compare the performance between these two products, again, we fill cracks, and I've already went through this once, and the cost of silane, when you look at this, they fill, well, first of all, they fill hairline cracks up to 64th of an inch, which is less than our BridgeDeck protector product does. But it only costs 25 cents per square foot, and our products extending are 75 cents, a dollar, $1.50. Okay. But one of the things that you have to do with silane is you have to, the recommendation is to pre-application pressure wash, and it needs at least 24 hours to dry. So you're going to spend a lot more time in the field if you're going to do this right. And that's probably one of the reasons why silane can't meet its service life of what was that again? It was 7 to 10 years, because people are probably not doing this. So that's why they're probably going to 5-year service life, but because it takes more time to pressure wash and to dry it.
And
Okay.
just a quick question here about specifically about the application. My understanding, talking with DOT engineers, is that their number one concern is that they cannot, close a structure for a very long time, because if it's a night work, they have to close, about 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, and they have to resume traffic about 4 or 5 a.m. So they have a short time to do anything that needs to be done. And also, what's very interesting is that my understanding is that the number one cost for DOT is actually not the product that they're applying, but is actually closing the structure. So in other words, if they're closing the structure, if they're applying water, or if they're closing the structure and they are applying, I don't know, a French champagne, it's going to be virtually the same overall cost, because even though champagne is more expensive than water, the most expensive part is not what they are applying, is actually closing the structure. And I think that's a great point here. If you're talking about a technology that's going to last 3 times, 4 times, 5 times the standard technology, that means that we only have to close the structure once in 25 years. And if that is the most important cost, or one of the most important costs of a bridge repair situation, they are actually saving money. So, my water champagne example maybe is not great, but my point is exactly that. Closing the structure is very time consuming, because you only have a few hours to do the work, and is very expensive, because all the duties, they're very concerned about safety and all of that. So um, if we're able to reduce the time that we are closing the structure, that's good for everybody.
Yeah, and the reason for that is basically because it's the cost of maintenance protection of traffic. When you think about this, you got to put signs out, you got to put cones out, and then you got to maintain of all of that. And it's in the succeeding slides, but I think you did a more detailed explanation than I have. And it really, that's what drives the cost up. And you're going to find out in the end that silane is more expensive alternate than BridgeDeck for all those reasons. But let me just continue. Try to hopefully pull that together. Okay, so comparing the BridgeDeck to silane. BridgeDeck lasts up to 5 times longer with silane for our top product, which is a waterproofing agent. BridgeDeck is 3 to 6 times more expensive than silane. So that's the advantage of silane, right? BridgeDeck fills larger cracks than silane, as well as future cracks. So that's a big advantage for BridgeDeck. BridgeDeck and silane are VOC compliant, and that's good for both. The need to dry decks 24 hours after pre-application pressure washing, the need for more frequent applications, and an overall increase in MOT, maintenance of traffic costs, basically, makes silane the more expensive than BridgeDeck if you're going to use it to extend the service life of the deck. So it's inexpensive, but just to apply, to purchase and purchase, but the application is more, and you'll find out it's not that cost competitive. Now, if you're just trying to buy a little bit of time for some reason before you got back and did something more, and it does do it. People do it. We used to use it in Florida, and without much preparation, if we saw a problem during a bridge inspection with some deterioration, we would apply some silane to it. But we knew we'd be getting back very close, very quickly to it, because we had a very active maintenance program. So it has its place, but it's not very competitive when you talk about it.
Let me ask you
So,
something that I actually forgot to ask about the methacrylates. What type of situation, what type of structure, or when would you recommend using a methacrylate, and when would you recommend using a silane?
okay, Florida DOT really looks at methacrylate as the product, and that's one
Mm,
of the reasons that there's an opportunity there. Um, we used to use methacrylate because we had a lot of post-tension segmental bridges, which are big bridges, and they were in metal ducts, and we had some corrosion issues. And it was part of a repair procedure that we did on several bridges where we would use the methacrylate, and then we would use the Kevlar tape on top of the joints, and we actually would injection grout them. And then we used Kevlar tape. We did epoxy for those type of significant repairs that need to be made. And really the problem there was cracking more than anything else.
okay.
And they did use methacrylate on crack bridges that had post tension even before they went through that type of rehabilitation. And it's good in construction because you can deal with a big crack and gain acceptance and things of that nature. But if you're talking about extending the service life of healthy deck slabs, it does not compete well against bridge deck products. It just doesn't.
Mm,
And that reason for that is that the decks continue to crack, and methacrylate won't do anything about it. It won't stop water from permeating down and attacking the reinforcing steel and causing them to rust and scale and crack the deck. And it's just it needs constant reapplications. That's why the reapplications are a shorter period of time than about half the time that you'd be using for bridge deck. And the thing is that no matter how many times you apply it, that water is going to permeate to the reinforcing steel, and it's only going to cause corrosion. So if you're
mhm.
using it with a barrier system like a epoxy overlay, something like that, you can do it. But I really believe unless you have huge cracks, bridge deck is a better product. Don't worry about the methacrylate people; they get a good market, and they have a niche, and it's a
Mhm.
good
Yeah,
niche.
sure. Yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay, bridge deck service life comparison with Porsche. This is a little bit trickier because it's a similar product. So first of all, we have our service life, and we're willing to back it up. Porsche is a relatively new product. They claim they have 5 to 9 times greater service life than a bare deck. I don't know how true that is. Okay, I do know that they had a highway study, a highway 231 case study, and it said that Porsche will last 10 plus years. It's not that new a product. It's a new product, so they really don't know what its service life is. And I bet you it does have a long service life, but we don't know exactly what that is. Okay, so let's move on to basically their performance and cost comparison. Well, if you look at this, you can see that basically they do fill pores. I know they do cracks, but I couldn't find much evidence of that in the literature I was looking at. And they do, but their cracks I think are more hairline. I probably should have put that in this. And they're basically between the cost of bridge deck protectorate plus and protectorate, and they're VOC compliant, and they probably goes down at a similar rate to what BridgeDeck does. Here's where it gets dicey for them. Apply, and then you have to apply and then spread baking soda on a slippery surface because it forms a slick surface before opening the traffic. And basically, if you do that, you drive the cost up. So in the end, we'll go through the summary over here. I think that we compare very well to them. Bridge deck lasts 1.5 to 2.5 is longer than Porsche, at least based upon the evidence that's been presented so far. That may not be it may have similar service life to what we have. It probably does actually. Initial purchase price of Bridge Deck waterproofing system and Protector Plus is higher than for Porsche for those two. Bridge Deck can fill larger cracks than Pore Shield, which is a big advantage for us, as well as future cracks in the case of Bridge Deck waterproofing system, which does advertise that. Bridge Deck and Pore Shield are VOC compliant, so that's a wash. Repeated applications, purchase of and spreading of baking soda, and additional MOT makes BridgeDeck more cost effective because we don't have to spread that. You don't have to pay for the baking soda, the cost of it, the material, and spreading it, and you don't have to have the MOT out there as long. Do you have any questions on this one?
No.
Martha?
So is there any, I think we would ask the same questions before. Is there any specific type of structure where you would recommend, I forget the name of this technology, is it's a soybean based product, right?
Yes.
I forgot the name of the technology is kind of hard. But is there any situation where you would recommend a methacrylate or silane or a BridgeDeck or a Porsche? I do understand that some of these products they have specific niches, so it's better to use this product if you have this situation or that product if you have another situation. So I already covered the silanes and methacrylates, but when it comes to this soybean based product, what type of situation do you think that these would perform better than a silane or better than a methacrylate, for example?
Well, I tell you the truth. I think that basically, you know, BridgeDeck is superior to methacrylate. I'll try to give you at least, it's less expensive, and methacrylate does not fill pores, so it can't really arrest corrosion through the permeation through concrete. So for most circumstances, you'd be wanting to use BridgeDeck. If you have large cracks, you want to use methacrylate, but if you're really being savvy, you might use some methacrylate for those large cracks and then use, BridgeDeck, or you can use Pore Shield as well. Then basically compared to silane, unless you're talking about a very limited application where you're and it's really probably more for substructure areas where you don't have to worry about traffic control and you just want to do something really quick to get a little service line because you're going to come in and do a little bit, you're going to do something more major later. Silane might have an advantage there, but it does not have an advantage as a BridgeDeck product over BridgeDeck. Pore Shield, it's really kind of hard to tell because not all the information is known. But the big advantage that BridgeDeck has over Pore Shield is we seal larger cracks, and we have a service life. We've had a longer history of long applications, so I still think we have the advantage over them. But they're a decent product and they're good competition.
Yeah. And I always go back to the crack sealing ability,
Yes.
because water is going to find a way. So if we don't, if you're using a product, if we use technology that this technology does not have the ability to seal cracks, water's going to penetrate through the cracks, it's going to find the rebar, and then you're going to have corrosion. So sometimes when we're using surface products or topic products that they're not waterproofing the cracks, you're still going to have the problems. So you're still going to have corrosion just because water is going to penetrate the crack. And when we move away from bridges, sometimes we visit other type of structures like a deck or a podium or a parking structure where to avoid this from happening, they suck cut the crack and then they use a caulking material, an elastomeric type of acrylic, polyurethane, urethane, or silicone. They use an elastomeric material to waterproof or to protect that crack. But then my question remains virtually the same. What's going to happen with the future cracks that are going to happen? Because water is going to find a way to the future cracks. So having a solution that is capable of sealing the existing cracks, but also the future cracks that they're not there yet, really is giving a very long durability and protection to the structure.
You made some excellent points, and we're going to be talking about complementary systems in a minute. There's one thing I would like to point out that when you're marketing in the Midwest has the National Soybean Alliance, and they have Pore Shield has their endorsement because they grow soybeans, and they can use soybeans to make Pouliotte. So that may be a little difficult to overcome in some states, but that's just a local preference because it means more money for the area.
Yep.
But I think in other parts of the country, they don't have that advantage. So, should I move on?
Let's move forward. Yeah.
Okay. So, comparing crack sealer and deck treatment options for use in complementary bridge deck protection systems. What is a complementary bridge deck protection system? It consists of traditional overlays over crack sealers or deck treatments. So what you do is you put down your crack sealer, your deck treatments, and then you put a overlay on top of it. In most cases, an overlay over deck treatments will work better than an overlay over crack sealers because when an overlay fails, the crack sealer or deck treatment begin to work. Deck treatments, healer sealers, fill pores and prevent water and contaminants from permeating the deck slab, and crack sealers do not. That's an advantage for deck treatments. Crack sealers will not seal. Crack sealers will not seal new deck slab cracks, and that's what you were just talking about. When decks crack, water and contaminants permeate the deck, causing the reinforcement to rust, scale, push outward, and crack the deck slab concrete. So that's what happens if your crack sealer is protecting the bridge all by itself for an extended period of time. Deck treatments should last longer, which lowers the overall cost. And for the reasons we discussed earlier, I believe that BridgeDeck is the superior product over Pouliotte than some of the others. So, comparing BridgeDeck with other deck treatment options for use in complementary BridgeDeck protection systems. BridgeDeck has the longest expected service life based on Alchemco's confidence in offering warranties for 15, 20, and 25-year service lives for our product line. BridgeDeck seals larger cracks than silane or Pouliotte and future cracks in the case of BridgeDeck waterproofing system. Taking all factors into consideration, initial purchase price, application costs, cure time, maintenance and traffic costs, and longevity, BridgeDeck is the least expensive option. At least for now, that's the way the data is tending to work out. In summary, BridgeDeck is the best option for duplex bridge. And I got to change. I should say complementary BridgeDeck protection systems based on service life and overall cost per application and performance in sealing pores, cracks, and future costs. I updated this presentation yesterday, and I missed one duplex. It should be complimentary. So that's pretty much it. Are there any questions?
Yes. So again, thank you very much for exposing your experience with all of that. I'm always thinking on a BOT engineer trying to understand which technology to use and when to use each one of the technologies. So we have done another video in the past where we were comparing. We have thousands of structures, and now the question is which ones should you start the waterproofing or the protecting treatment to these structures. And I think my follow-up question about that is exactly now we have now I know the bridges that I want to treat, so now I have number of options. So from the methacrylates to even to the epoxy overlays, that we didn't cover epoxy overlays here, but they're completely different. It's a different technology, and it is built for different type of situation. You have the silanes 40%, 100%. So you have the silane, siloxane. So you do have a number of technologies, and I'm always thinking, how can we help them to make an educated decision? So from what we discussed before, we understand that the cost of closing a structure is usually more relevant to the overall cost than actually the product being applied. So when we are talking about the cost per square footage of any of these systems, some of these systems, they take way longer to resume traffic. So that means that you're going to have to close the structure for a longer period of time. And on top of that, you're also going to have to close the structure more often, because some of these technologies, they're going to have a 10 or 15 year reapplication period, when other technologies are going to have a way longer reapplication period. And my third point would be how important it is for any of these technologies to actually fill and waterproof cracks, existing cracks and future cracks. This way we know for sure that the area is watertight, because water is not penetrating through the cracks. So if you want to summarize, our conversation using these points that I mentioned, if you see that there is uh, um, any other thing that's important for a new BOP engineer, or even an experienced one that's not yet familiarized with the BridgeDeck technology, what would you recommend to them?
Well, uh, you said a lot right there.
Yeah.
I think that what we're talking about is cost of application, right? That's an important point. I think we're talking about longevity, which may be the most important point. And the other thing is that it comes down to the fact that each one of these products we talked about has a niche, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's better to use another product,
Mhm.
for whatever reason, like methacrylate on big cracks. You definitely, if the cracks are big enough and they're not, you can't injection grout them, but they're too big for Pore Shield to handle, or pardon me, for BridgeDeck to handle, then you might want to use it. But you can use those things in conjunction with each other. And if you end up with some of these situations that basically where you can combine a product, like a methacrylate and and BridgeDeck to try to get a superior life, that's good too, because
Mhm.
basically that you're trying to give the client the best options available to them, and you want to
Yeah.
extend it as long. Just in general, for me, using using BridgeDeck, I'd be very comfortable using that successively, as to extend the service life of a deck. In Florida, we use bare decks, and we used to, you know, go through profilograph, playing profilograph, so we have a nice smooth ride, and we groove them, and I think that even for any state that does that, you could use. It's less expensive to use. Use BridgeDeck, and you can reapply it on a schedule, which was the presentation we talked about earlier.
Mhm.
But the thing is that a lot of states want to have nice smooth riding surfaces. They want asphalt, or they like epoxy, because epoxy or some of these other barrier products that'll come down and they can protect the deck. And I think that's good, because that has to fail before anything underneath it, any of these other products that we're talking about today, the crack sealers and the heel sealers, would begin to work. So I think the idea is to listen to your clients' concerns and answer the questions. And I think if you present it properly, you're going to make a very powerful case for that BridgeDeck is the product in probably the most instances you're going to run into.
Very good. Well, Jeff, thanks again for your time, and I think it was a very clarifying webinar. So thanks again, and thanks everybody for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good.